Is Wisconsin making the right move and bringing back Luke Fickell for the 2026 season? Could other schools have waited and maybe done the same? That and more coming up on today's show. Also, a look at this weekend. What's on the line for plenty of teams across college football? I am Josh Neighbors. This is the College Countdown here on the 365 Sports Network as well as the Rogue Media Networks. You can find us on Twitter at Josh Neighbors _. The show is at CC Podcast JN. And also, you guys can find Jack Allen at Jack Allen TV. Jack was on earlier this week, but we ended up not using the show because I just got a new laptop, so I'm still learning on how to use it, where to use it, all those things. So no Jack this week. He'll be back next week. And also, guys, like the video, sub to the channel. We're starting to do better and better, but every subscription helps. Every like helps, and every comment helps as well. So we appreciate those. And if you can't listen to the show, you all can find the show wherever your podcasts are found. I also want to thank the folks at DraftKings for sponsoring this show. All right, let's get to it. So, a move that is not the standard, at least for this offseason. We got some news that Luke Fickell will be returning for the 2026 college football season to the University of Wisconsin. I think that, the first thing I thought about this was that Luke Fickell is going to be a huge benefactor of the fact that the coaching market is crowded. And Wisconsin rather, could be a benefactor of that as well. But Luke Fickell is in year number 4 at Wisconsin. He was 1-0. He was, I think it was just a bowl game. I guess it says it took over, but he's sitting there doing whatever. The 7-6, 5-7, 2-6, right? That was after a 57-18 run as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. And then he had the 6-7 season. I believe that was the year that he was the interim head coach at Ohio State. He was there in Vermeer, I believe. I think the number one thing about this is that, yes, he is benefiting from what's happening across the country, right? In the Big Ten, you've got Maryland and Penn State and UCLA that are all open. In the SEC, you've got Florida, you've got LSU that's open, you've got Auburn that is open, and others could obviously, Arkansas is open, others could open as time goes along. Not to mention that Virginia Tech is open, Oklahoma State is open, Auburn is open as well. I think I might have mentioned Auburn, the SEC stuff, but there's a lot of jobs that are there, and there are enough qualified candidates for Wisconsin to make the right hire. But what they're saying is this. What Wisconsin is saying is, hey, we'd rather just wait and make sure that we get the right guy or give Luke Fickell a chance to turn this thing around, because what you're seeing now is that one factor is the market is crowded. There's a lot of teams in for coaches. You might have to pay more for a certain type of coach that you would have paid less for before. Maybe a Matt Campbell would be somebody they would try to pull away by giving him a great offer. Well, Penn State could be in the market for a Matt Campbell, which should either cause you to not get him or drive up the cost. What if a Lance Leipold wants to make a move? Guys like that are in that profile. Also, with what we've seen is that you can turn over programs pretty fast. Now, the thing about it is, Indiana being a good example in the Big Ten, what Indiana had was obviously a good coach, B, a good roster, but they returned a lot of the roster, and they're actually, a quarterback they clearly upgraded from Curtis Rourke to Fernando Mendoza. And I'm not saying Rourke's a bad player, but they clearly upgraded, but they were able to retain a lot of those guys in the previous year, right? And so when you're in a conference like the Big Ten is top heavy. Your big dogs are going to be Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, right? And Ohio State's doing this. I mean, they have got this thing rolling right now where they are year in, year out at the top. But I would say that drop off from that middle part of the league or the top to the middle is more substantial in the Big Ten. I don't think we're, really like, this is not SEC bias. I said that a whole lot ago. I don't like having to say it. It is just fact, guys. Like, I went to an SEC school. Yes, I covered an SEC school, but the Big Ten at the top is better. Like, I think A&M might not. I think Indiana's better than Texas A&M. I think Ohio State's definitely better than Texas A&M. Those two teams to me are above the rest. Indiana might be, Alabama could be, and Georgia could be as good as, but like Ohio State's better than everybody else. Last couple of years, Ohio State, Michigan, the year before that, man, they just had the best team in the country, right? And Michigan's going to be, continue to be really good. I think, 7-2 this year, 5-1 in the Big Ten. Oregon 7-1, I think under Dan Lanning, they'll continue to be good. But that drop, the next part of the league is a bit more substantial. You go down to Iowa's next, USC is next, Minnesota is next, Northwestern's next, Washington's next, UCLA, Illinois, Nebraska, Maryland. Like there is much more of a middle class of that league. I think that middle class of the SEC is a lot better, right? In the SEC right now, you got A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. And Texas is the fifth. I don't think there are 5 teams that good. Like your top 5 in the SEC right now are as follows: A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you get 4, 5. Your top 5 in the Big Ten right now are Indiana, Ohio State. Yeah, sure, match them up, right? But Michigan, Oregon, Iowa, that's your top 5. I don't think that top 5 is as good as the top 5 in the SEC. Even more so when you go on further down the list in that SEC and you get to Oklahoma, you get to Vanderbilt, you get to Tennessee, you get to Missouri, right? That is the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Your top 9 is all ranked. And rankings don't mean anything, but like Missouri, even with Zoller's, good outfit, good tackling. Offense sputters, but still, Tennessee, flip side, really good offense, right? Even at 6-3 overall. Vanderbilt, obviously very good. Oklahoma, really good outfit. They don't have that in the Big Ten. And I'm not saying that can't change, but it feels like turning over a program and getting towards the top is a lot easier. We've seen Missouri and Ole Miss really pour a ton of money into football, but that doesn't just put you towards the top. It doesn't put you in the CFP. I know Indiana didn't make the Big Ten title game last year, but the barrier to entry, I feel like for the Big Ten title game is a little bit easier, or at least Big Ten title game, but at least the top upper echelon to be in the part of that league, and get considered for playoff spots. It's a bit easier to get there. This is all the entire point we're making here is that flipping things, getting things turned around is probably easier in the Big Ten conference than it is the Southeastern Conference. I don't think I'm really going out on some crazy limb saying that. And so for Wisconsin, I know the 24/7 Sports where they have them in terms of the recruiting this year. But, I know they're not like really killing it in that category, but if the fact that they've got Fickell now, shows a little bit of stability, they're going to give him a chance. And guess what? It's probably not going to be as tenuous of a coaching market next year because all of these jobs that are open right now are going to end up, making choices. Now, obviously, teams will move on next year. But Wisconsin could be a much attractive job to a coach that's willing to move on. Also, you've seen a lot of coaches get extensions already, too. So, I think that's one thing that has to be considered is a lot of coaches getting those big-time extensions. So you're not having to overpay also. And some of these guys are actually deciding to stay. I think Wisconsin, I'll check what they are. Not doing the recruiting, but it's a good free now to set some things down. It definitely could have that impact for Wisconsin. So I just think that, do I think Luke Fickell is working at Wisconsin? No, I don't. Do I think they have a lot of ideas? No, they seem to be out of them right now. But what this does is it just says, hey, be patient. This is obviously not our year. We don't want to fist fight with all these schools and end up having to pitch you, the fan base, on some guy who's not the guy. Take the time, make the right decision, and like Luke Fickell around. But I think one thing Wisconsin could say is if he does it next year, you don't have to give a massive big extension because he has not year in and year out proven anything. And so I think ultimately this is a smart move. And I'm trying to think if other schools could have maybe done this. Oklahoma State, there's the it's time thing. Like Oklahoma State, it was time. They can go and find good candidates. They have to scrap other schools, but that was time. That was definitely time on that one. Virginia Tech and Brent Pry thing, that one was time. UCLA, and they had a guy who's out of his depth. Florida had given Billy Napier plenty of time. So I'm not, but Penn State, you all know my thoughts about that. I think it's too fast. I even think like the Brian Kelly thing was a bad fit. I would have given him one more year, considering the contract. But if these schools have the money, they have the money. So who am I to say, it's also not my money. So go ahead and do it. But all those make sense. And Wisconsin have made sense, but you're going up all against these heavy hitters. Just take some time. Also, other jobs will become open, potentially jobs that are on your caliber. I mean, the Missouris of the world, the Ole Misses of the world could even come open, right now because of what's happening. And they are in better recruiting areas than Wisconsin is. So I think that's got to be factored in as well. I know it's not good. I know they're rudderless right now, but I think that there's nothing wrong with saying we're going to wait given the market. Once again, I am not saying that I think Luke Fickell is going to work out at Wisconsin. What I am saying is, given the current situation, given the current conditions, this is not the worst idea in the move in the world for the school from the standpoint they're coming from right now. I don't think it is. All right. Let's hear a word from our DraftKings. And I want to know what y'all think about that as well. In the chat, leave your comments, like the video, and we'll look at those next week. All right, let's hear some words from our friends at DraftKings. Who are going to help us go through the weekend and talk about what's at stake.
One play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds, boosts, and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NEIGHBORS. That's code NEIGHBORS to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
DraftKings, the crown is yours. All right, folks, let's look at the weekend that is coming up in college football. When we say what's at stake, there's a whole lot. I mean, it can be a variety of things, right, about what is at stake this weekend. It gets going on this very Friday night. We saw a very impressive performance from the USF Bulls, just absolutely UTSA on Thursday night. That's a huge win for them. The big showdown we're going to see, the team is currently going to be the last team in the college football playoff field, is the Memphis Tigers. They host a really pivotal matchup with Tulane tonight. This is a battle. The funny thing is that the 4-team, we had a really funny 4-team collection collage, if you will, in the American the last two nights. You had UTSA against Trailer, a guy who's been talked about for jobs, faces off against Alex Galesh, a guy who's been talked about for jobs. And then tonight you've got in Silverfield, obviously, I think certainly for the Arkansas job, and John Summerall, a guy I think is going to be in mix for a lot of jobs. 8 o'clock on ESPN. This one is going to set the pace for the AAC for the rest of the year. Memphis had that brilliant rally against USF in a game where obviously Lewis was hurt. They rally in that fourth quarter. They get past that lead, and now we have got Tulane at 3. Well, even East Carolina. East Carolina's at 3-1. You've got Tulane at 3-1. You've got North Texas at 4-1. You've got South Florida at 4-1. You've got Memphis at 4-1. You've got Navy at 5-1. They take on Notre Dame this week. Obviously, they're going to be in the fight, but I think about a talent standpoint, if you watch Memphis, you watch USF, they definitely look different than Navy. The thing is, Memphis will get shots at both of these teams. So they're going to have a very good chance at making the AAC title game with what they've got now. It's difficult because they're also at ECU next week as well. But they've got Tulane at home. They've got Navy at home. They had USF at home. So they have been able to rip off those wins at home. They are undefeated at home as well. On the only losses on the road against a UAB team, which is a weird one. But Memphis is a very good team. Tulane, on the other hand, man, what a just awful effort that we saw from the Green Wave. We saw them take on UTSA. I mean, really just got punished in that game. And I think Memphis is a bit more athletic, and this is another road game. Now they've had more time off before this game, but Memphis to me is a bit more athletic, I think, and if they're a bit healthier, I love their chances. I expect it to be a close game. I'm not sure what the status of Lewis is for this contest, but if you got to think about what's at stake, already getting going on a Friday night, having something that's that appetizing, it's having something that, to me, very, very appealing. And you can see them to our friends at the old DraftKings Sportsbook, as I'm trying to share my screen. You know how this thing goes. Never likes the screen sharing. You can see. So 3.5-point favorites are the Memphis Tigers tonight. You'll see Houston's playing UCF, USC, and Northwestern, but that a pivotal matchup in that league. And with Tulane, they have got at Temple and Charlotte left, and as well as FAU. So if Tulane wins this game, you can pretty much put them in for the at least in my opinion, for the American Athletic Conference title game. If Memphis wins, they still have to clear Navy and ECU, but I like their chances to go anyway. And that USF win is huge for them. But USF taking care of business last night was also very big for them because I think out of all these teams, I think we all would say, at least I would say, that USF to me is the best out of all of them physically, talent-wise. I mean, they really did have in that game. They had Memphis dead to rights and just blew it in that fourth quarter. That's why they play all 60 minutes, as they say. And they've got at Temple. They got, let's see. I want to go back and look at the USF schedule. Their state of affairs right now is once again we are moving very, very slowly here on the old Computon. What they have left, give me the South Florida Bulls. Dun-dun-dun. And you can't have all these tabs up at once. I would have these up ready to go, but it's not going to let me do more than one tab. They've got at Navy next week. They've got at UAB and Rice. So if they can handle at Navy, and look, they should be favored in that game. They got a better roster than Navy. I think what you see too is when the Naval Academy, when those service academies take on higher levels of competition, which we'll see against Notre Dame this week for the midshipmen, things usually do go sideways for them in those big talent gap situations. So you see that there. Obviously, this week, the big contest that everybody is looking at is the one between BYU and Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, 10.5-point favorite, 8-1. Big question is, could the Big 12 get two teams in the college football playoff? Well, I mean, looks like the ACC is probably only going to get one. The Big 12 could do it. BYU's resume is not great. You need either them to be 12-1, lose the title game, or Texas Tech to go 11-1 and then lose to BYU in a rematch. So BYU would have to nick them in a close conference title game. I think at that point, Tech would still get in. At that point, BYU would get in. Obviously, Utah is sitting there right behind, so they've got to be a factor in this, and Cincinnati could be a factor in this as well. But the best shot I think the Big 12 has at getting two teams into the college football playoff would be the Texas Tech Red Raiders and would be the BYU Cougars because they're currently 7-8. And BYU's resume is not super strong. That's why a win here on the road would be huge for them. At Utah at home is best win. But the thing for them is like they've gotten pretty fortunate, right? They've got a 3-point win at Colorado, a 6-point win at Arizona, game I thought they should have lost, a 3-point win against Utah, and then they beat Iowa State by 2 scores, but Iowa State's been really banged up. So this is kind of the winning the championship of the conference would put them in, obviously, but this is kind of their chance to show that they're a great team. The question I have is that can they block Tech? Like, can you block that defensive front for Tech? This spread's 10.5. BYU is really a well-coached unit. They are very good to me in the margins. Typically, that's where they are. But Texas Tech is like a really good just team. Period. I would go and for me, I would want to look at the team totals in this game. That's where I'd go if I wanted to check out, just what I'm thinking. That first half over total 26.5. I find that one to be interesting as well. Let's see again. Under on a 9.5 jumped. I think it started at 7. So that's an interesting contest there. JMU at Marshall, they need some style points. So that's obviously something that you can see because they have a chance, at being that team, at being the G5 team if things continue to play out chaotically down the line. So eliminator game for Missouri. Matt Zollers in at quarterback. A&M figures to be pretty safe in the college ball playoff scene of things. 8-0, 5-0 in the SEC. And so because that they have been so strong in conference play so far this year, I mean, and the quality of their wins to me is very high as well. The win they got, I mean, I saw them play against Arkansas, but I was impressed the fact they could kind of do it every single way. But at Notre Dame, quality win there. You beat LSU on the road by 24 points as well. That's big. And if you win at Missouri as well, you've got the makings of a strong, a pretty strong resume. I would say this, like, they could lose this game. The only thing that can hurt them is a second loss against Texas. But I think they'd still be in. And I wouldn't see them losing the game by a lot. And the big thing is Matt Zollers is in at quarterback. The game script's going to be important. Missouri has started slow. They need to start fast in this game. Zollers is a talented kid, tell you that. Zollers is a talented kid. I think that if you wanted some parlay action, same game parlay it, I would go under 48.5, and I would go A&M minus 270. I think that'd be the way that I would go in this game. So A&M money line under 6.5. It's a big number. Honestly, I think, like, I don't see a situation where Missouri gets rolled in this game. I have a tough time seeing that. I know it's a fresh quarterback, but they're at home, kind of last stand, and they want to make a push to the playoff, which they do. So that one's big. Also, another big one, Oregon. But Missouri's got the most to gain here. Missouri's got a lot to gain in this game. A&M could lose and still be okay. Could lose twice and still probably be okay. Also, Iowa and Oregon in a interesting contest. Oregon 6.5. No matter what the conditions are, I really think Oregon's going to be prepared for this game and they're going to roll them. Iowa's a tough place to play. Well, I'd say it might be a slow grind. Iowa's offense has become more explosive, but I think this is the game where Oregon gets right. Like, I think it's most likely I think out of the 4 outcomes, Oregon close, Oregon by a little, Iowa close, Iowa by a lot. So it's the 4 outcomes, right? Oregon by a lot, Oregon by a little, Iowa by a little, Iowa by a lot. I think most likely I would say is Oregon by a lot is my most likely, I think, in my opinion, at least. I think you're seeing that reflected in these point spreads. Let's see, Washington, Wisconsin. Washington obviously still in the hunt for a spot. ACC games are interesting all the way down. And then here's one more I wanted to look at for y'all. Notre Dame's going to just mash the hell out of Navy. Poor Navy. They're going to be in a little railroad situation there. Alabama and LSU, like, it's total stay away game for me because we know about the reputation that Alabama has accrued, particularly in situations where they are a double-digit favorite. That has not always been the kind of situation to win Kalen DeBoer, but I find that situation relatively interesting. I expect Alabama to win, but it is interesting to see this game in not the normal way where it's like massive matchup, so much on the line, 2 great schools. The athletes will be good, but man, you kind of wonder what's happening at LSU, like how much they have left to play for and whatnot. So I think that should be considered in that game. But I'll tell you one thing about LSU, like, they're 5-3 and they're 2-3 in the SEC, and they're not good. They're not good enough. But just as like a thought exercise, like if they were to go on the road and beat Alabama, and you look at what's left for them on the schedule, they got Arkansas, Western Kentucky, at OU. They if Oklahoma kept winning, they would have like a semi-interesting case because they'd have wins at Clemson doesn't turn out to be a good win, but at that time was good. South Carolina, Florida by 20-10, right? Oklahoma at Alabama, like they've got the makings of something that would be an interesting 9-3 resume. But I mean, you beat Alabama on the road, it's big. You beat Oklahoma on the road, it's big. So they're not going to do it. Just once again, they're not going to do it. The injury report doesn't look good. Things don't look good for them. But as a thought exercise, that would be interesting. All right, folks, your favorite favorite team's next head coach could be playing this week. Your favorite teams could be playing this week, right? But there's a whole lot to play for. to watch. A lot of curious fan bases are watching.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Of the College Countdown. We're back on Sunday to recap the weekend that was in college football, folks. Find us on Twitter. I'm at @JoshNeighbors_. Like the show, sub to the channel, leave your comments, leave your likes, good or bad or indifferent. We'll see you all on Sunday.